Hey everybody, just want to say before we get on with watching the film together that I've got a merch store. You can check it out right now. Links are all down below. Selling all kinds of merch these days. We got Goldilocks Films mugs and shirts and sweatshirts and posters for all my movies. So you can buy a poster for a theater near you right now if you like the movie enough, or posters for pretty much any of my movies. So check it out if you feel like it. We got lots of fun stuff cooking on there, and that's the best way to support me as a filmmaker currently and a creator. If you feel like it, and if you like my stuff enough, and yeah, I'd appreciate it. Anyway, let's get on with the film. Hope you enjoy. All right, here we go. Theater near you commentary. I am Gage Clift, director of this little film here, this little short film, this documentary. And today I want to talk about the movie a little bit. Just did my Singularity commentary for the last movie I did. Go check that out. Go check that bad boy out. And this is a theater near you. So this thing started as something completely different. Let me tip a sip of my little coffee thingy here. Got some good coffee. This is going to suck. This whole thing is going to suck. Here we go. So it started as something a little bit different. It was going to be a feature film, actually. And it was actually, the project started, it was going to be about all the movies that I watched in 2022. And I was going to kind of document my experience, my theater going experience, each one I had. My plan was to go see 100 movies this year and kind of loosely document each experience into kind of like a glorified vlog of sorts that became like a feature film. And it was going to be about, the theater going experience as a whole. And because it kind of felt like, post-COVID, that the theater experience, it was on its last leg. So I wanted to capture what I thought was going to be one of the last big epic years of cinema. Here we are more than halfway through 2022, and it hasn't been that good of a year for movies, but whatever. For, bigger theater movies or whatever. But anyway, so I started basically recording shit, and I kind of became disenfranchised. Is that the right word? That's not the right word. Disenfranchised is not the right word. I became like, I wasn't feeling it. There I go, using words I don't understand. I just wasn't feeling it. It wasn't working the way I wanted it to. And, I had filmed a couple theater experiences, funny enough, and a lot of like random shit, and then the last 2 weeks of my employment at the movie theater happened, and I started to record that stuff. And I was like, oh, this will be kind of a cool little subplot to kind of sprinkle in throughout, you see this all from the inside, right? It's all about the theater experience and going to see movies, but then there's this little subplot that kind of brings it all together about me quitting a movie theater that I work at. So I recorded for, a couple weeks, and then my employment ended, and fast forward 2 months, and I had kind of scrapped the project. I was kind of skeptical from the get-go about like recording myself going to see all these movies because, I did the vlog thing. I did this whole thing called Movie Adventures for a while, where I recorded myself buying Blu-rays and going to movies and everything. And it's exhausting, and it kind of ruins things because it's like you just want to go to a movie and have fun with your friends or your family, and but you got to stress out about recording yourself and documenting shit, and it just ruins it. It's exhausting. So I was a little skeptical from the get-go, and it did not take long for it to fall through. But then I had all this footage still of me, at the theater and stuff, a lot of stuff that didn't, make the cut because it didn't make sense. And I was kind of talking to Sid, my fiance, about it, and I already kind of had this idea, but then she kind of was like, you should edit it, what you have into like a little short film instead. And then I started playing with that idea, using the footage I had to create something entirely new. So a lot of stuff didn't make it into this that I recorded that wouldn't make sense because I sculpted an entirely new project out of like basically what was a subplot in a feature film that became a short. So it's kind of just it's kind of a fun little story. I didn't expect this movie to be a thing, and that's kind of cool. It's a subplot of a feature became a short. And here we are. We got a theater near you. It took me a while to sculpt that title also. I didn't really know what what I was going to call this thing. And I almost was thinking about calling it Majestic, but I was like, that's a little on the nose, don't you think? So, theater near you sounded right. Theater near you sounded right. And I almost called it Coming Soon. But then I was like, okay, I gotta maybe, you know, I can't just say out loud that I'm copying the Doom Productions film See You Soon. I can't just say the quiet part out loud. I gotta at least title it something different, even though it's basically the same movie. So then here we are, theater near you. Now is the point where I have to actually talk about what's happening. Fuck. I don't even know what to say about this movie. There's just like, it kind of speaks for itself, right? It's like there's not much context I could give. The thing about this film is that it could be literally anything. It could have been like, it's just strange when you make a documentary, because especially something is like more simple, I guess, or like even broad in a way, like those are two opposite terms, but it's simplistic and simultaneously broad in a sense where it's like you could literally do anything with this. This movie, there's like so many things I could have talked about or like focused in on as far as this story goes and this plot. Like, you know, this so-called documentary really only covers such a very selective experience at this theater, you know, or my story, you know, like there is just an immense amount of material that, you know, stories, people, all kinds of things that I could have talked about, filmed, captured, but I just didn't. It was a very, and you know, partly that's because when I was filming this, I didn't know what this was going to be a part of. I didn't know this is all going to be a part of a film about me working at the theater. It was just going to be a little subplot about me quitting. So I probably would have given more context had I known, but then that's what the scenes of me in my car talking are basically what that is. I needed more context. I had to film more because I didn't tell the full story. So I needed some more. But the funny thing about it is like there's first off, there is a shit ton of things that I said and talked about in the car about my experience that was cut. Probably 75% of, like, I filmed out there for like over an hour, and honestly, like probably 75% of it didn't make the cut. But more so, like there's things I didn't even talk about, you know. It just goes to show, like, when you're making a documentary, especially something that's not like about a specific event or anything, you know, like not serious material, that's not necessarily about facts and stuff. It's more of just about like an experience. Like you could tell it through any lens, and you can focus in on one thing, and it just makes it completely different. And like for me, I really mainly just focused on like the feeling of nostalgia and just my overall very simplistic experience there. And, you know, just, you know, the idea of reflection, right? Like, but that doesn't even remotely scratch the surface, to be honest. It's just like this little time capsule, simplistic little thing, you know? And I love it because of that. My point is like, this could have been anything, and it's like, it's more about like what you decide. And some documentaries you can kind of like shape into, you know, something. And for me, it was all about evoking the feeling of nostalgia. This movie really was about capturing how I felt leaving this place after so long, what it was like working in a theater, what it means to me, and you know, the sadness I feel, you know, not having it anymore. But and I think that I did a pretty good job doing that, capturing that nostalgia. You know, for me, like, I like to capture an emotion with my movies more so than like conveying an emotion is just as important, or sometimes more important, than telling a story personally. And I think that I evoked the feeling of nostalgia successfully. But anyway, yeah, I don't know what else to say. There's not even like, there's so many employees that like that weren't in this. There's like 3 or 4 people, not like 5 or 6 actually, but like, it's just so funny to me. Like, there's just so much that I could have done with this, and so many more things I could have added, and it ended up being very simple. But I think that because it's so simple, it works. I think that if I try to make it a more like, I think less is more. Jesus, I could have just said that early on. This is my problem, is I suck at talking. Less is more in this case. Certain documentaries, less is more. You focus in on small things, and it's I think it's more meaningful and impactful because of it. Jesus. Okay. Do we have any questions here? I guess these are just kind of re-answering the same questions I already answered for Singularity. Daniel at the Movies asked, what did you learn most? Making a theater near you? Kind of already said that. Shit. I guess I learned that, sometimes documentaries, they can be many different types of movies. And you just, at the end of the day, gotta pick one. You can't really... You can, but you can't always do it all. You can't always talk about everything. If I talked about everything, this movie would probably be 3 hours, and it would suck. And I would have probably gotten in trouble for saying way too much. It's just like, less is more. I learned that. Sometimes with a documentary, less is more. And I also learned that, I think Cody Clark always told me this once. He told me once when we were doing his podcast way back when, that like he usually, if he's like writing a script or something and he scraps it, like it'll always make its way into some other story. And, for this movie, like, it was a feature, but the footage ended up being in a short. So it's like you still salvage everything that you create in some way, shape, or form, if it's literally or like, subconsciously. So, God, I'm really bad at this. I'm so bad at this. Anyway, what else did I learn? Like I'm trying to think, like, personally, what I learned making this thing. I don't know. I feel like I learned what, like, the meaning of the story is what I learned, right? Like, I very much so experienced the themes of the movie itself. You're kind of learning we're learning together with this movie. Like the whole like meaning at the end is that line or whatever where I'm like, don't be sad, something's gone, be happy you had it in your life to begin with. That's what I learned. That's kind of like the meaning of the whole thing by the end. So that is what I really did learn, to be honest. Like, that wasn't a planned thing. That's what I felt like I learned. So, and that's just the honest to God truth. Grannon Films asks what inspired Singularity, but I will say, as far as what inspired a theater near you, I already kind of said it as a joke, but Doom Productions' See You Soon is a huge inspiration for me. Like, when I saw See You Soon by Doom Productions, it was a kind of a documentary about all the theaters in their town, during COVID, and that really, I just loved that movie. I loved that documentary, and that's what inspired that idea about the feature, about documenting all the movies I go to in the theaters for a year, and just kind of like seeing what happens and just kind of reflecting on the theater experience and everything, because like their movie really reminded me of like why I think the theater experience is so beautiful, and I wanted to create something about that myself, and so that I have to give them the most credit for this, to be honest. And I just copied them and made the same thing. And favorite part of making this film. Favorite part of making this movie. I guess maybe, rough cut viewings are always my favorite part of movies. When you have the first like rough cut of the movie and you show all your friends or the people involved in the movie, those are always so much fun. First, I gotta say, all these poop shots, these were all unblurred. And Kyle, my friend, and Sid, my fiance, convinced me to blur them, and I'm so grateful for them, because like, I'm just like, for me, I'm just like, subtlety isn't a word in my vocabulary, and I'm so lucky to have people in my life that can kind of like, draw me back a little bit to reality and be like, Gage, you don't need to show real human shit unblurred. in a movie. And then Kyle said, you know what? The blur not only is necessary, but it's funnier. And he was so right, because once we blurred it and we watched the sequence with the music and everything, it was so funny because it looks like a crime scene, and it is just so funny. And that's I'm a very stingy, like, just kind of like individually minded filmmaker, where it's like, I'm gonna do what I want to do. But when I listen and I hear other people, especially the close people in my life, I'm just so grateful that I have, like, Sid and Kyle and people in my life, two minds that kind of bring me back to reality. Because, like, for me, I'm just like, go for it, do everything. And it's like, again, less is more. Less is more, Gage. Less is more. Like, you don't need 1,000 fucks in a movie. How about 900? That's better. Less is more. But yeah, thank you, Kyle, and thank you, Sid, for bringing me back to reality on that one. Now I don't know what we're talking about. Where were we? Favorite part of making this movie? Shit. Oh, rough cuts. So, yeah, I love showing rough cuts to my friends. It's, like, so fun for me. Like, it's like the first time I'm showing people the movie, and it just feels like I'm so excited. I'm always, like, sweating because I'm, like, so excited. And I was kind of worried about this one. I have to say, I was kind of worried that people... I mean, I was worried with Singularity. I was worried people would be mad at me because it's, like, the subject matter. And I was worried people would be like, you're a piece of shit, blah, blah, blah. But with this one, I was just worried, like, I didn't think this was my best work, and I still don't. But, like, I was worried they would be like, all right. That's kind of the reaction I was fearing. I was fearing showing my friends, and one of my friends, Trevor, and I was like, oh God, they're just gonna be like, okay, like, this is a vlog, but okay. But the reaction was actually, like, very positive, and honestly, the reaction, not only in my friend circle, but from other people, like, watching, has been, like, maybe the most positive reaction to one of my movies has been in a while, like, maybe since, like, Waffle, or, I mean, Driftwood, it was pretty positive, but, like, I was just, like, honestly really shocked and grateful. Like, I didn't expect people to like it as much as they did, and I was, like, very concerned about it. But I think people really resonated with it, and like, really, it evokes that feeling of nostalgia more effectively than I thought it did. And I'm lucky that people who have never been there or worked there still feel that feeling, right? So I guess that was probably my favorite part. The relief of knowing that, like, oh, okay, I have something here, And when I watched the very, very first rough cut with Sid, because there were, like, 6 rough cuts. Usually I'm, like, a 1 rough cut, final cut guy. But this one had, like, 6 rough cuts because I was just, like, it was just a mess. The first rough cut was a mess. And I was like, this is really bad, but, like, I can see the movie. Like, something's there. And that was nice. It was a bittersweet night watching that first cut because I was, like, slightly depressed, but I could see it. It was light at the end of the tunnel. It was far away, but I could see it. So, and I liked going to the parking lot, like, a couple months after, like, I filmed everything in the theater and just kind of reflecting on everything. It was fun. This whole project was, like, really, I just felt like it was another cathartic thing. I mean, making movies for me is very cathartic. Especially late into the editing process, I get very, like, emotional and nostalgic, and it always, like, again, like, my whole thing is, it just feels like I'm putting pieces of my heart back into place. Every movie, I feel like my heart becomes fuller and fuller. And, I'm just grateful to be able to make movies. Like, I feel like, I hate the word heal, but, like, I mean, I guess that's what it is. I feel like I'm healing with each movie I make. I feel like I'm a more whole person. And that's why I love making movies, because it's like, it's not only how I express myself to others, but it's how I emotionally reflect and heal internally. So, I don't know. I'm just really happy to be making movies, I'm just really happy. Thanks for asking all the questions, you guys. I guess that's it. I guess that's all the questions. Whatever. That's fine. We'll talk about the movie now. Had to blur all this because I was like, probably shouldn't show stuff. Hopefully I don't get sued for this movie. Just kidding. Just kidding. Blurred all that footage, and that was actually surprisingly very easy. I edited this thing in DaVinci Resolve. It was the first time I've ever edited anything in Resolve, and it was an okay experience. It had its ups and downs. I hated it at first, and then I was like, this is amazing, and then I was really frustrated. It was just back and forth, back and forth. But the blurring was really easy. I was like shocked at how fucking easy it was. Sip of coffee now. Yeah, I had to tell the story of meeting Sid. Had to do it because it's the best thing that happened to me in my time at the theater and just in general. Like the fact that I wouldn't have met her if I had never worked there is just like insane. So it's like kind of a beautiful thing. And even then, we only talked about the bare minimum, you know, like. And there's been a review or two who said, like, you know, it's a very simple thing, kind of feels like it's missing some elements here and there, but it's like, I decided to be very careful about what I decided to talk about and didn't, and what I decided to delve into and not. You know, like one can of worms, if you open one can of worms, it leads you down this whole new rabbit hole, and it's like, I just had to be very, like, precise and to the point to certain things. But again, less is more. That's what I'm learning about a theater near you. Less is more with everything. Subtlety, Gage. Subtlety. I wish I had more interviews with more employees, but again, like, I only had like a couple weeks, and I didn't know what this was, and I wanted to do a little bit more with Micah, but he moved, so I didn't really have the opportunity. I mean, I did, but I just didn't like quite make it work. I could have, but again, like, every can of worms you open, like, this thing's already 30 minutes, you know, and I feel like it barely scratches the surface. I guess this could have been a feature, but I'm glad it's not. Like, I'm glad it's not an hour and a half, you know, like, that's just too much. That's just way too much. If your documentary is over an hour and 20 minutes and it's not about Hitler, check your privilege. Most of the music here is all from Artlist also. That's what I've been doing. I've been using Artlist since I did Driftwood of the Seashell, and it's been like just a tremendous tool because I love music so much, and I want to be able to freely use music without having to worry about, you know, copyright or anything. And like, those I would love to use real music. I mean, I could, you know, like I did for Waffles and Vine, and I mean, I could do that. You know, because I haven't made, like, physical releases or anything. I'm not making money from any of these, but, you know, I don't know. I go back and forth on it. Like, I sometimes want to make movies with, like, copyrighted songs, but it's kind of nice to restrain myself and use copyright-free stuff where I, you know, technically have the rights because it's Artlist and have the license and everything. And honestly, I haven't had trouble finding good music. Like, I mean, copyright-free music, like, say what you want about it. I feel like I'm really good at finding good stuff, like. And honestly, like, I think copyright-free music can be beautiful. Like, just because it's copyright-free, like, there's, like, a little bit of a stigma about, like, stuff that's, like, royalty-free and stuff, that it has to be bad. But I can speak, I'm, like, an example. I can find beautiful royalty-free music. I think this song is absolutely beautiful. And a lot of the music in this, like, I think this is a solid soundtrack. It's, oh, another motorcycle. Lord have mercy, man. Go suck a wiener. Yeah. I did a very light grade on this too. Nothing spectacular. Just to like, mainly just like warm up or cool down certain shots. Nothing crazy. I was like, I don't want to. Because this is all shot on a phone. So I was like, it doesn't look that good anyway. I'm not going to go crazy on it. And that's probably a symptom of singularity, you know, just like, I think I've definitely relaxed on making a movie as absolutely perfect as it can possibly be, because I think the old me would have spent like a couple weeks, you know, on the colors and everything, and I'm like, this is phone footage, like, it looks, you know, it's fine. I improved it for sure, but it's like, I'm not going to spend 2 weeks on color grading phone footage that's not even like supposed to be that cinematic because it's a documentary. So, but yeah, Yeah, I love the music in this. I'm just saying that again. I think royalty-free music can be used beautifully, and a lot of it is objectively beautiful. Art is beautiful, whether it's free or you have to pay for it. Let's make that a normal. Let's normalize that idea. You don't have to pay for. You don't have to. Not beautiful music doesn't have to just be paid for. Free stuff can be beautiful. That's okay. I'll stop talking. Yeah, here we are. I don't know. Like, I feel like I said nothing. God, this is so bad. I showed the back here for the first time at the end. Apprehensively, I was worried, that I was like, I hope I don't get in trouble for this one. Let's see. And this last bit here. Yeah, man, I don't know, man. I think my favorite part of this movie is the soundtrack. Like, I don't know. I can't stop talking about it. I'm just so happy with how it turned out. And my favorite thing I've done as a filmmaker too is like the opening shot and the last shot. We're walking into the theater, and then we're leaving at the end. I just think it's so beautiful with the music and just like the theme and the ideas that it conveys. Like, I just think it's so beautiful. I also think this movie, like, especially filming this a little bit here, was really, like, peaceful and cathartic for me, just because, like, I had just made such a heavy movie in Singularity, and then I got to make this, like, little nostalgia piece that was just kind of, like, peaceful and calm and sweet, Sad in its own way, though. But this is just really nice to just, like, make something that felt wholesome, after making something so, like a little like angry and depressed. And I never really expected to make movies like this or Drifter to the Seashell that I feel like are just very like wholesome at its core. And I'm very grateful to have discovered this new like way of filmmaking and new like little, I don't even know what you would call it, branch of like my creativity. A little bit of a wholesomeness to it. I always thought I'd be making like movies where people are screaming at each other for not making the right breakfast item or something forever. All right, cussing and screaming. I'm just saying I'm happy that not every one of my movies is Waffles or Vine Avenue. Every now and again, though, that's okay. But yeah, not every. Hey, one of the next ones is gonna be in that category. If you like the Waffles, Vine Avenue, not so amazing Gage. Don't worry, we're not abandoning that completely just yet. Still got dumbass comedies coming. I'm excited though, man. Feature films are on the way. I think this is the last short I'm doing for a bit, and I'm gonna do the plan. I have 2 features. That's the plan. Hopefully back to back. And I mean, not to say I'm never gonna make a short again, but I don't have any immediate plans to. As much as I would like to, I gotta stop, because I made A Theater Near You and Singularity and Driftwood have all been made in the process of filming my next feature, because I stopped working on my feature and started working on all these bad boys. I gotta get back to my feature so I can get that fucking finished. Anyway, this is maybe my favorite little piece of filmmaking I've ever done, because like when I was filming this, I was just like, oh, that's the cool lights, but never did I imagine that like it would create this, like, perfectly encapsulate what you're supposed to be feeling at this moment. Like you've experienced this time in this theater, and now you, the audience, as well as myself, who has quit, we are leaving together, and it just like, it gives me like goosebumps, and I can't tell you. There isn't anything more important. Like, if your film that you're making or your piece of art gives you chills or goosebumps, you've made something special. And I just like get so emotional, but in a good way. Like, I just feel so like a good kind of cry, when I'm seeing this, because it just perfectly encapsulates how I feel. And that's what movies mean to me, portraying the nostalgia, sadness, and happiness that I feel internally, and putting that into a visual format, and like sharing that with other people. Like, that's what movies mean to me. These end credits remind me of Glass for some reason. Maybe it's just the purple color of the bars. I don't know why. Wasn't an inspiration, but I was doing it and I was like, this reminds me of like Glass or like Unbreakable or something. But I love the credits. I've never really gotten this experimental with, like, you know, not that experimental, there's just pictures, but, you know, you get it. Phone just buzzed. But yeah, these are all the leftover pictures. A lot of them I just love. I just love all these pictures. They're so fun. So sweet. And honestly, man, like, film yourself. If you're a filmmaker, take pictures. Film your life. Take pictures of the people you love and the places you visit. You'll be happy you did. Because if you ever decide to do something like this, you have it. You know? I was very grateful to have the footage and the pictures that I had, but I wish that I had filmed more. You know? Anyway. That's a piece of advice if you're a filmmaker or like a photographer or whatever. Just like document stuff, you know? Document your life. You never know what you're going to do to it. Or with it, you know? You'll never know. That's Mr. Herb, who passed away, sadly, a couple years ago, I think. 2 or maybe 3 years ago. And he was just such a sweet guy. And he was the full-time security guard. And yeah, sweet man. Biggest fan of Top Gun I've ever met. Loved that movie so much. Rest in peace, Mr. Herb. Had to include that sweet picture of him. And I'm going to get one more little bit from the theater. Didn't even talk about any of these clips, but they're just kind of fun and nostalgic, and I like them. So, it's time to say goodnight. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check this thing out. Review it on Letterboxd if you want. Really appreciate all of you and watching this, and hope this was okay and sort of enjoyable. Good night. Much love. Until next time. Hopefully it's a feature. You get more out of life when you go out to a movie. That's right. Bye-bye.